Welcome back to the Witchwood. Here we'll be talking about the Shaman, the Warlock, and the Warrior cards. And quick reminder before we begin with the new mechanics. Rush is a creature that can attack minions the turn it's played. Echo is a card that can be played repeatedly on the turn it's played as long as you still have mana. With that in mind, let's get going with the first card of Shaman, the Bog Shaper. 7 mana, 8/4 elemental. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a minion from your deck. Not bad. It's not giving you random minions. It's certainly helping you draw the minions you want to draw. Can certainly help Shaman reload. Problem is, it's 7 mana, and Shaman doesn't have a lot of cheap, good spells that I really want to play. Sure, it's got the various, the evolves and whatnot, but with things like Maelstrom Portal rotating out and some of the Jade stuff, although I think their only Jade spell was Jade Lightning. There's just a lot of spells that are rotating out that are actually pretty cheap. Spells that I actually want to play, and that won't mess with Bog Shaper. So I'm not sure how good this will be with all the spells rotating out, but it does at least have potential. So I'll give it that. Next up is the only hero card of the set, Hagatha the Witch. 8 mana, gives you 5 armor. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to all minions, and her hero power is a passive. Whenever you play a minion, add a random shaman spell to your hand. I don't have a little token to show you it, but it's a passive hero power, much like Valera's. Valera the Hollow, that is. An 8 mana that deals 3 damage to all minions and gives me 5 armor and gives me a new hero power. Well, I mean, Deathstalker Rexar was pretty good, although he was 2 mana cheaper and his hero power was kind of more fun, but when it gets right down to it, we're just going to have to see. Shaman doesn't exactly have many good spells, period. Bog Shaper or not, Shaman doesn't really have that many great spells. That being said, you're getting plenty of them, so you're bound to hit at least a couple of good ones, assuming you can survive the next turn. So it really comes down to, can you play this in a situation and survive to next turn? Well, the Battlecry might help you do that. It's definitely a more situational card. It's definitely more of a control-y Shaman card. And it's definitely going to help if you are control Shaman, because then it'll be, play minions, get spells to help you control the board. And if you happen to have Bog Shaper, Bog Shaper on the same, I can't even bring him up, but if you have Bog Shaper on the same board and you've got Hagatha down, it can snowball pretty quick, now that I think about it, because you'll be drawing minions from your deck. The minions you draw will be giving you spells. The spells you cast will be drawing you minions. It'll be a beautiful combo, but that's a bit of a kind of a, best case scenario. Don't think about the best case. Just think about, I'm going to get a couple of minions and I'm going to get a couple of spells, and they're going to hopefully be good spells like Hex and Lightning Storm and things that I actually want to use. So moving on from Hagatha, we have the next card, Muckspark Eel, the evens only card for Shaman. 2 mana, 2/3. If your deck has only even cost cards, deal 2 damage. Vanilla stats are fine. 2 mana, 2/3s are perfectly fine. The Battlecry, I am not impressed with. Even with Gen Greymane making my hero power cost 1, I should remind myself I'm in Shaman. I don't care if my hero power costs 1. My hero power sucks if I'm not rolling Evolve Shaman, and if I have Gen Greymane, I'm not running Evolve. The deal 2 damage is just too little of an impact to really excite me. That being said, if I got this off of some sort of random effect, I wouldn't mind too terribly. It's a 2/3. It's for 2 mana. It's solid. It'd be solid vanilla, so that's well enough. It's just the Battlecry is kind of lackluster, but it's fine on its own. So hey. Next up, we have the Totem Cruncher. 4 mana, 2/3 with Taunt. Battlecry, destroy your totems, gain +2/+2 for each destroyed. And I must remind everyone that counts things like Totem Golem, although why you'd want to kill a Totem Golem, I don't know. But it counts things like that, Flame Tongue Totem, Primal Fin Totem, Banatide Totem, Vitality Totem if you're playing in Wild. All kinds of totems from all over the place. There's plenty of totems everywhere. Totems, totems, totems. And the more you have, the bigger this thing gets. Would you like a 4 mana 6/7? Just have 2 totems on the board. And it doesn't even have overload. How nice. Realistically, this will probably end up being a 6 mana 4/5 taunt most of the time. depending on how well your opponent controls the totems on the board, and a totem cruncher gets big, opponents are going to be looking for it. So do be mindful that even with this pretty sweet effect for each totem you destroy, your opponents might see it coming. Remember that your opponents are somewhat intelligent. I can't speak for sub-rank 20, but your opponent does have a functioning brain, and if they see you focusing on getting a lot of totems out, they might realize you're up to something, and they'll either kill the totems or they'll have a big answer waiting for when Totem Cruncher comes down. That being said, hey, 4 mana 6/7 sounds pretty good to me. Finally, we have the Witch's Apprentice, which is literally the frog that you get off of Hex. 1 mana 0/1 with Taunt and Battle Cry, add a random shaman spell to your hand, and at least one of those times it's going to be Hex, and that time you're going to have yourself a sensible chuckle. So yeah, this it's worth noting that the same thing I said about Hagath, where Shaman just doesn't have many good spells you really want to play. Same applies here, and this time you're only getting one. This isn't Babbling Book, where really the only dead card you could hit was Glacial Mysteries. Everything else that Mage has some sort of use to it. This isn't that. You can get Lightning Storm, or actually Lightning Storm is pretty good. But you can get something like, say, I'm trying to think, Volcano is one, Frost Shock is one. And granted, those are good cards, but sometimes you don't want to play a 5 mana overload yourself for 3 card. In fact, a lot of times you don't, and you especially don't want to be rolling things like Elemental Destruction, or you might get yourself, something that just doesn't fit with your deck. That being said, there are plenty of shaman spells that are actually pretty nice. So maybe I was wrong when I said that about Hagath, and maybe I'm wrong when I'm saying it here. Maybe there's enough good shaman spells and there's few enough dead hits. You're never going to run into the situation where you play Witch's Apprentice and you get something as crappy as Glacial Mysteries, which didn't help unless you were literally Secret Mage, and even then that didn't really help you. This, now that I think about it, there's actually plenty of decent shaman stuff out there. And it's worth noting, I haven't seen any new shaman spells yet. There's a couple of days of reveals that I've missed, but I haven't seen any new shaman spells yet. And there's probably going to be at least a few in this set. Hopefully a few good ones that you can get off Witch's Apprentice that might make this even sweeter. So Shaman seems to be in a weird case where we're not seeing any of the spells they're getting. They are getting, a really cool hero card. But at the end of it, it seems like there's not really a good solid base to build from. It feels like everything wants to synergize with cards that it doesn't have. So moving on to Warlock, however, we have the first of his new cards, of Gul'dan's new cards, the Blood Witch. 4 mana 3 sticks. At the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to your hero. Would not be the greatest thing in the world if it wasn't for some synergies that Warlock has with taking damage. You have obviously the Floating Watcher, although I think that's been is that classic? No, I think that I'm pretty sure that's not classic, but you get the idea. Floating Watcher is just the first thing that comes to mind, but there's also the Spellstones from Kobolds and Catacombs, and a couple of new cards. As for the stats itself, 4 mana 3/6, not the greatest in the world, but it's not something I feel dissatisfied playing. The effect, I really would only use it if I'm really looking to improve my Spellstones, or if I'm looking to play some of the other cards in this set, like the Deathweb Spider, 5 mana 4/6 beast, battle cry, if your hero took damage this turn, gain lifesteal. At its worst, this could potentially be a 7 mana 4/6 lifesteal, which honestly is not too terrible because that extra 2 mana includes a card, because you're using life tap, unless you're happening to play Baku, but we'll get there. And if you have Blood Witch down, and you manage to, get the effect where it deals the damage to you, you can just play this as a 5 mana 4/6 lifesteal, which is not bad, especially if you manage to give this sucker Taunt. Defender of Argus, here we come! All told, I like this. I like these if you took damage this turn abilities. It really kind of... Warlock already has a pretty solid hero power, but it does reward you playing a bit dangerously, and it does reward you taking risks to get more effects, which is very very much the flavor of Warlock. You take the risk with your life tap, you take the risk with a lot of your cards doing damage to you or discarding your cards, and you get bigger effects for it. You risk, and then you reward. Something I am not so happy to see, however, is the Dusk Bat, 3 mana 2/4 beast. Battle cry, if your hero took damage this turn, summon 2 1/1 bats. I'm not as excited for this as I was for Deathweb Spider. The bats are nice, but it's certainly not something I'm going to kill myself trying to get, literally in this case. I mean, it could be a great Defile starter, but aside from that, the bats just don't feel like enough of a payoff to really worry about damaging myself. That being said, if I do damage myself, say with a Kobold Librarian or something like that, or I play a Hellfire and then this comes down after it, that's pretty good. You know, if I was already hurting myself already, I may as well just play this. I won't be too dissatisfied playing it, and I won't be too dissatisfied with the payoff. I'm just saying there's better ones out there. Next up, we have Glinda Crowskin, the first legendary for Warlock. 6 mana 3/7. Minions in your hand have Echo. Oh my god, when I saw this thing get revealed. Everyone lost their minds over it. It's a damn good card, that's definitely for sure, but, you know, admittedly, you may not get too much of a payoff because this is a removal attractor. This has soft taunt, as we like to say. There's plenty of ways for this to go terribly, horribly, no good, wrong. That being said, if you happen to have 10 mana and 1 2-mana creature that you really want to play a couple of times, hey, go for it. If this manages to survive a turn, the payoff is going to be enormous. But just remember that your opponent is going to be looking to get rid of this as soon as you play it. So try to protect it. Try to, get the most out of it when you do have it. Otherwise, this is probably just going to be a vanilla 3/7 most of the time. What is not going to be a vanilla card is Lord Godfrey, 7 mana 4/4. Better have something awesome to make up for it, and he does. Battle Cry, deal 2 damage to all other minions. If any die, repeat this Battle Cry. Supercharged Defile, that doesn't affect him, meaning you always have a 4/4 left behind. It's amazing. Play it against an enemy board, and you can probably wipe out an entire enemy board in no time flat. I like this card. If I'm ever going to play Warlock in this expansion, I'm definitely bringing him in. This Battle Cry is just awesome. So Warlock gets some cool stuff and some meh things. But we move on now to the Warrior, whose first card is the Black Howl Gunspire. 7 mana 3/8. Can't attack. Whenever this minion deals, or takes damage, I should say, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Immediate, first thought, oh, give this thing taunt. Next thought, oh, Warrior has a ton of whirlwind effects that I can use to damage it. Third thought, well, it's random enemy is the problem. And if it was more pronounced, if it was, just cut it down to like 2 damage to all enemies, or, if it was more than just 3 damage to a random enemy, which, granted, depending on how things are going, I can kind of control which random enemy it is. If there's nobody on the other side of the board, it's all going to face, and that's pretty cool, but I don't know, 3 damage to a random enemy, it just doesn't excite me. It doesn't excite me enough to play a bunch of whirlwind effects. Unlike things like, Rot Face kind of made me happy to play a bunch of whirlwind effects. This doesn't feel that exciting. It doesn't feel exciting enough for a legendary. Legendary should feel exciting to play and exciting to get their payoff, and this just doesn't. Next, however, we have the other legendary for Warrior, Darius Crowley. Well, Mr. Crowley, did you talk to the dead? It's a 5 mana 4/4 with Rush. After this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. I've already spoken about how Rush can very easily be seen as minion-based removal, and this is just kind of emphasizing that point. It eats some small things and gets bigger and bigger every time it kills something small. It's very anti-aggro, which is odd in a Warrior deck, but usually the Warrior decks are the aggro, or at least Warrior decks these days have been aggro. It's pretty meh if it's just a 5 mana 4/4, but obviously you're going to be playing this to try and kill something that's weak, make it bigger, kill a bunch of other stuff while you're doing it, and just kind of control your opponent's board with this thing. Just the nasty thing that this thing is going to slowly snowball into if your opponent doesn't get rid of it immediately, which they will be trying to, trust me. So yeah, Darius Crowley definitely makes me excited, and I would love to feast on the dead, and I'm afraid that's really the only lyrics to Mr. Crowley I know. I don't think he's fooling all the people with magic, because he definitely looks more like a warrior than anything. Next up, we have Deadly Arsenal. 6 mana. Reveal a weapon from your deck. Deal its attack to all minions. Probably means deal its attack as damage to all minions, but, we figured that out. It's worth remembering that the best weapons in Warrior tend to hover around the 3 attack. You have things like Fiery War Axe, Woe Cleaver. You've got Arcanite Reaper, of course, and you've got Blood Razor. You've got a variety of things. The best thing to think of this is potentially just a really big whirlwind effect. And don't think of this as Dragon's Fury. It's definitely not Dragon's Fury. It's not like deal its mana, deal its cost to all minions. No, it's deal the attack of the weapon to all minions. And do remember that it's all minions, not your opponents. So hey, maybe it can help trigger that Black Hell Gunspire we're talking about, or other effects where your minions might really like to get damaged. But just remember that it's not going to be as good as Dragon's Fury. It will never be as good as Dragon's Fury. Even if you can consistently hit Arcanite Reaper, it will never be as good as Dragon's Fury, but it'll probably be good. Next up, we have the Festa Root Hulk. After a friendly minion attacks, gain +1 attack. Initially, I was thinking this is a 5 mana 2/7, and I thought it was when a friendly minion died, it gained the attack. And then I realized, no, it's when it attacks. And that got me thinking, because Warrior kind of wins when it comes to the rush. It's got quite a few rush minions, quite a few good rush minions too. So you can very easily attack with a few creatures, and all of a sudden this thing is a 6/7 for 5, just because your opponent didn't clear out your board last turn. Or, play this alongside, say, Darius Crowley, and now everyone's getting bigger. I like this. The fact that its ability is so easy to trigger, because it's just attacking with friendly minions. They don't have to take damage. They don't have to kill things. They don't have to die. You can smork incredibly hard and grow this thing as big as you like. So yeah. When I reread this card, when I initially thought this card was, friendly minions die, I thought, oh, this kind of sucks. But then I reread it and I went, oh, this is actually pretty good. I'm fully expecting to see a sort of aggro warrior rise out of this set, and I'm feeling like Festa Root Hulk is gonna be in the top there. And of course, I await putting this thing in my top 5 cards I was wrong about, because I get the feeling that aggro warrior is just not gonna be good either. But moving on from Festa Root and the fact that I am not Nostradamus, we have the Militia Commander, the first rush card that was revealed, used to show off the mechanic. Still like it, still love it, still think it's going to be, 4 mana, deal 5 damage to a minion. I still think it's going to be essentially warrior-based removal. I like it, I still love it. Moving right along, we have another rush card, Red Band Wasp, 2 mana 1/3 rush, has +3 attack while damaged. Would go great with a whirlwind effect. But otherwise, I would have loved, has poisonous while undamaged or something like that, The fact that this is probably going to end up being maybe a 4/2 for 2 with rush, I mean, that's pretty cool, but unless you have a whirlwind effect ready to go when you play this, it's not going to be that great of a rush minion. So moving on from the Red Band Wasp, however, we have the Town Crier. 1 mana, 1/2 with Battle Cry, draw a rush minion from your deck. And this is really where I say that Warrior is definitely going to be a bit more aggro in this expansion, because it's got things like this. This is a great 1-drop. Vanilla stats for a 1-drop are great. Battle Cry is even better, because a card draw that of a very specific kind, too. If you're running 2 Militia Commanders and Darius Crowley, this is going to get you something awesome, no matter what it hits. And the fact that you can carry 2 of these and maybe play them turn 1 and turn 2, get everything you need to destroy your opponent's board, or play this late game when you really desperately need more minions, and suddenly you play this, you have a 1/2, and then you have a rush minion, assuming you haven't drawn them all already. Really good. Flexible, versatile, can work late game and early game. Good all around. I will definitely be slotting this into the 1-drop slot in my decks. Next up, we have Warrior's Echo card, the Warpath. 2 mana, Echo, deal 1 damage to all minions. Repeatable whirlwinds are what Warrior kind of likes to have, especially with the when you take damage, do this effects. You know, we've seen Frothing Berserker, we've had Rotface, and now we've got a few things in this set that really kind of want to be damaged. And with Warpath, you can pull it off repeatedly if you need to. Say hello, Black Owl Gunspire. Repeatable Whirlwind is not a bad idea. We like having Whirlwind. Whirlwind is actually really good, people are finding. At least I'm finding. So yeah, Warpath, big thumbs up there. Finally, we come to the weapon for Warrior, the Woodcutter's Axe. It is a 2 mana 2/5 with Death Rattle. Did I say 2/5? I have no idea why I said 2/5. It's a 2/2. Death Rattle, give +2/+1 to a random friendly rush minion. Since you can control when this thing is broken by simply not attacking it with it when it has 1 durability, you can easily play your rush minion, swing with this, and then your rush minion is suddenly much bigger. 7/6 Militia Commander, anyone? Or 6/5 Darius Crowley, which swiftly turns into an 8 attacks, like 7 or less health there. This is gonna be probably really good. 2 mana weapons are very, very needed in Warrior ever since Fiery War Axe took a nerf. And this is actually pretty solid. It controls, early game minions. It'll stop aggro dead in its tracks because you're killing them. And then it makes your stuff bigger at the end. Wonderful card. I'm planning on running it, and thank God it's common so we can get them easy. So that's the last few classes for the Witchwood expansion. Join us next time where we go over the neutral cards.